Hey, Herbert, Monaco's first, right?
Yes. Well, the first application, we have to talk about the harvester first.
Yep.
Okay, Frank, all set.
Ready to go? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Township of Hillsborough Board of Adjustment public meeting for Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021, which will be conducted virtually. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And this meeting will be conducted virtually. All board members, consultants, and staff will be participating remotely. The public will be given an opportunity to participate remotely through the advertised Zoom link or optional phone numbers identified in the public meeting notice. The public should use the raise hand feature in Zoom or the *9 if participating by telephone to indicate that you would like to be recognized to speak. Application documents were made available for inspection on the township website at least 10 days prior to the scheduled meeting in accordance with the meeting notice. Those are calendar days. Applicants and their professionals will be presenting remotely and will identify themselves before testifying. This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, which is called the Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2021 annual meeting schedule has been provided to the officially designated newspapers, the township clerk, posted on a bulletin board at the township Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex, and posted on the township's website. Additional notice has been provided to communicate that this meeting is being conducted according to the governor's executive orders and to pursuant to Public Law 2020 C.11, which allows for meetings to be conducted electronically, and pursuing to the local finance notices recently established in the state of New Jersey. Tina, would you call the roll call from members and professionals, please?
Yes, Mr. Stamler,
Yes, here.
Ms. Salili, absent, Mr.
No,
Valchek.
hold on,
Wait.
Tina. She's here. She's just got on mute.
Oh,
Can you unmute Miss Salili? There we are.
Yes, I'm present.
Thank
okay,
you. Sorry, Tina.
thanks. That's okay. Mr. Valchek,
Here.
Mr. Walmacher,
Here.
Ms. Comfer,
Here.
Ms. Haynes,
Here.
Chairman Herbert. Okay, and absent is Mr. Vincher and Mr. Sirachi. Mr. Gorman,
Present.
Mr. Anderson.
He's on mute.
He's in
Apologize
Hawaii.
for being a little slow on unmuting.
You are here, okay. Mr. Euro
Here.
and Mr. Kinsler,
Here.
and I am here. I've decided.
Okay. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda tonight is we have one resolution. It was Paul Oram, file BA 20-14. Board discussion, if any. If not, a motion
Motion.
in a second.
Second.
Okay, a roll call, Tina, please.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Comfer,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Herbert.
Next, we have one Board of Adjustment business. That was a change to the bylaws, section 5.3. We had a recommendation from the subcommittee. Maybe Chicky, would you like to address that?
All right, this is basically a housekeeping item. We went through and with Mark's help a couple years ago, took out a lot of extraneous information and parts of the bylaws. And this part, we kind of inadvertently left out, and then at least I forgot about following up, that this had to do with voting during reorganization. And it just merely states what we do basically during the public, the regular meetings, which is only the first 7 eligible members of the board we'll vote on whatever the motions are, or adoption of Robert's Rules of Orders and things of that sort. So this is what was recommended by Mark, and under the participation and voting section of 5:3.
And I would go on to say this also makes us consistent with the planning board process too. Okay,
Yes.
any discussion? Anybody have any input? Anything?
We're ready to vote.
A motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
And I think we need a roll call, so Tina would take a roll call on that.
Yes. Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Salili,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Comfer,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the business from the floor from Matt is not on the agenda. So I'll ask Fred to open up the public line to see if anybody out there has any input to us that's not on the agenda tonight.
Okay, anybody have anything for this board that's not on the agenda? Raise your hand. Seeing none, Chairman, you can proceed.
Okay.
Hey, Frank
Mr.
Herbert.
Chairman and Fred, I just want to make a note for the record that Mr. DeSessa, our other board engineer, is arrived and he's now present. He'll be on the WELLS application later on.
Yes, he was here at
7:07.
7:06. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey, Frank
Yeah.
Herbert, it's John. Is board business open, right?
Okay, we can reopen it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt before, but the end of March, the next meeting, we're gonna have a status on the board recommendations that have been kicking around for a year and a half, right?
Yes, no, I talked to Mr. Maskey the other day and he will be coming back with a recommendation, well, actually a discussion on the April meeting. Because he's been working on it and he's gonna give us an update.
Well, I thought it was March.
It was the end of March.
Good March, so
Oh.
I mean, the first time we meet was the April,
Okay, all right, thank you.
okay. Okay, so first of all, we have a German from Harvester's Gospel Center, that's BA 19.
Frank, 1 second. Did we finish up opening to the public?
Yes,
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, nobody had anything, Patrick.
I apologize.
No problem.
okay, so Patrick, tell us what's going on with Harvesters and when what's,
Sure. So the application for Harvesters Gospel Center, that was file number BA 19-22. We originally heard this application a while back, and then we adjourned them to a later date, which was supposed to be today. Essentially, there were some comments made by the board, plus there were some other outstanding matters that need to be resolved. The applicant has taken extra steps to provide updated plans for our department. At this point, they would also be renoticing. So it's recommended they be moved to March 17th meeting date. That is with notice, and they have provided us with an extension out to April 30th, 2021. That's all I have at the moment.
okay, so and I know they have the whole package in the site plans and all the changes. Everybody at this point probably has them.
This is Phil Sololi. I have a question. Do we have a meeting scheduled for March 17th?
Yes, we do.
Correct.
Yeah, that was on the agenda from the beginning of the year.
And
Okay,
it's
thank
strictly,
you.
it's strictly for harvesters, right?
Strictly for Harvester, right?
It's just Harvesters at this point.
Okay. Okay, so I need a motion to move it to the 17th, adjourn to the 17th.
Motion to move to the 17th. I thought we did, but okay.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed? Nobody. Okay, so it's the 17th. Okay, next, the Monicos are back this evening as file BA 2009. Patrick, would you introduce that, please?
Sure. File number BA 20-09 for Monaco, located at block 151.12, lot number 17. otherwise known as 5 Schuylkill Court. The applicant is seeking to see bulk variances and relief from the maximum impervious coverage to retain an existing patio and walkway, and from a minimum rear yard setback for the constructed in-ground pool with a walkway, which has now since changed as part of this update to the application. On a property in the R zone, residential. Application was heard at our last meeting on February 3rd, and they've been adjourned to this meeting without further notice.
Okay, Mark, do you have anything to say at this point?
No, not at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, now, ask the applicants, Mr. and Ms. Monaco, good evening.
Good evening.
Now, Ren, you were sworn in the last meeting, so tell us what the changes are that you made.
Well, we reached out to the gentleman who drafted our last report, and he made it much more detailed than it was to afford a better opportunity to see what we had in mind.
Okay, and
as you can see, it's much clearer where the landscaping material is and where the placement of the pool would be.
And just to let you know, Frank and board members, I know Frank Valchek went out there too, but I went out there and walked the grounds with the applicants, and with the updated version of the schematics, I did notice one thing. The walkway leading to the back of the yard, where it bends around, where it starts to go into the backyard, there's a discrepancy in favor of the applicants where that one little niche, that little corner that they have is incorrect. The walkway actually goes to that 17 by 26 portion of the diagram, which is the front steps. And it's 13 by 9, 13 feet by 9 feet of mulch and dirt there. So it actually is in the applicant's favor that it decreases the impervious surface, but I just wanted to bring that to light. And also, I inspected the entire grounds, and it is accurate now to where around the pool, the applicant, they have loose rock, and I suggested to put, trucks in there, either or, loose rock or trucks. It won't impact the thing, so just suggesting that to them. But the mulch and dirt area right off the patio and all is now accurate, so it looks pretty clean here. And
Chairman, would you like me to share the files from Civic Clerk on the screen?
no, I don't think we really need it.
Okay.
It looks like this
Just
is
asking.
pretty slim. Yeah, thank you. And then what I'm going to suggest when we move on this application, that the front walkway, the applicants were more than happy to remove that if needed to improve the numbers on the impervious surface. But I'm going to recommend that we don't do that. We leave it there because, okay, the 13 by 9 that I found was a discrepancy, but the front walk really doesn't, it decreases the numbers, but it really doesn't impact the water to the soil in the backyard where everything's being done. So, even though it was nice of the application to say they would remove that, I'm going to suggest that we keep that there because it's a nice looking piece of property. And that's about all I have to say.
okay, so just so I understand, John, you're recommending that what remains?
That front walkway that the application was more than happy to remove if needed. And I'm going to suggest that we keep that in there. It has nothing to do with the backyard where the impact to the update is.
It's only 56 square feet too, right?
Right. And I found a 13 by 9 patch of dirt and mulch that wasn't really specified on the diagram correctly.
John, it's Patrick, just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, is that at the prior meeting, if I recall, is that there was a possible consideration for a removal of the walkway, and now it's probably not needed at this point, just correct?
That's correct. It is not. Right. We're not suggesting that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we know what the resulting impervious coverage would be?
There was an update to the numbers that is on the plan revised through February 9, 2021, where the impervious coverage as part of that plan is 20.04%. I'm sorry, 20.04%.
Yes, I see that on the plan, but unless I've misunderstood Mr. Samler, he's suggesting that the actual impervious coverage on the ground would be a little less than that.
Well, if I'm looking at the plan, and right now, the existing walkway is area 1. He's talking about area 1, and that's shown as part of the 4,016 square feet, so. Right?
Yes, I think you're right. I think we could just leave the numbers the way it is.
Just leave it like it is, because it's already in the site plan.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, did you have your Mr. Monaco, did you have your engineer here tonight, or because he was listening?
We had a David Schmidt that was supposed to appear on his behalf, but I don't see him.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye. I haven't seen him either.
I don't think we need him. Does anybody?
No, I don't think we need them.
Okay. Any more questions, members of the board? Okay, well, let's just open it to the public, Fred, just to see if anybody in the public has any questions.
Sure. Anybody from the public have a question on this application? Seeing none, Chairman.
Okay. Patrick, do you have any more input on this?
The only update that I have is that there was a slight decrease to the amount of setback needed for the pool, where it went from 13 to 15 feet at this point. Variance is still required.
Right.
Right.
And Bob, do you have any, Bob, you're?
Mr. Chair, just to get on the record that the applicant, as part of his revised drawing, has eliminated all of the concrete that was initially proposed around the pool. And it looks like it's going to be a grassed area, which, as Mr. Stamler mentioned, could be replaced with some stone or some Trex decking.
Right. Okay, okay, so good. So at this point, I guess we'll close public. And do I hear a motion then?
Yeah, I motion to approve this application with everything I mentioned earlier. No need to remove that front yard walkway. Made some suggestions, but it's a good application. I move to approve.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Who was that, Jim?
Second.
Okay, Frank.
Mr. Voucher, yeah.
Okay, Gina, would you take a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Salili,
Yes, I just wanted to mention that I did watch the video, and I'm prepared to vote this evening. I signed off on the document, and also to share with the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Monaco, how rewarding it was to see the cooperation that you were willing to accept from the Board of Adjustment. So my vote is yes.
Thank you.
Thank.
okay. Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Comfer,
yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
As soon as the snow melts, you can start.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with it.
Take care of that cat.
Okay, the next application is Youth Center LLC, file BA 20-11. Patrick, please.
Next application is 0 New Center Road LLC, file number BA 20-11, located at block 148, lot 25. No address is related to this property because it's currently vacant. It's at the intersection of New Center Road and South Branch Road. The applicant is seeking seed bulk variances for relief from minimum lot size, minimum front yard setback, and for a deck and for the house, and minimum width setback along the Hodge Road. to construct this new single-family dwelling with the deck property in the RS Rural Suburban Zone. Applicant was adjourned from the February 3rd meeting 2021 with notice. We confirm we have received this notice, and the time of decision is March 15, 2021.
So,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
okay. So, Mr. Bagnell, you're representing the applicant, right?
Yes.
Okay, floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, members of Hillsborough Township Board of Adjustment. My name is Angelo Bagnara, and I'm the attorney for the applicant, Zero New Center Road LLC. My client owns the subject property at the northeast corner of South Branch Road and New Center Road, which also has access to the Hodge Road. The subject property is in the Township's RS zone. The site is presently vacant, and my client is seeking to construct a two-story single-family dwelling on the property with a deck, front walkway, and driveway. Access to the dwelling will be from the Hodge Road, and the dwelling will be serviced by well water and public sewer. I'm sure you have noted, because we will be serviced with well water, one of the three variances we seek is necessary, namely the minimum 2-acre lot size. Please be advised that our application has been deemed exempt by the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission and approval from the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District. I believe the board has been provided copies of both of these items. Additionally, we have applied as required for county planning board approval. Prior to the date hereof, we have submitted our application to the board together with documentation, including the variance plan dated July 10, 2020, revised through November 18, 2020, and prepared by Michael Ford, professional engineer at Van Cleef Engineering Associates. Mr. Ford will be testifying on behalf of the applicant shortly. We also have submitted a survey and topography prepared by Pamela Matthews, professional land surveyor, dated August 16, 2016, and an architectural plan dated May 13, 2020, revised through June 15, 2020, prepared by Ritz Craft. We are here seeking 3 C variances under NJSA 40:55D-70C. More specifically, the applicant will need variances for relief from the following bulk standards. 1, the minimum front yard setback on South Branch Road, which would be 65.8 feet for both the dwelling and the deck, whereas 75 feet is required. Number 2, the minimum lot width at the setback for Hodge Road, which would be 105.37 feet, whereas 200 feet is required. And 3, the minimum lot area required is a 2-acre minimum for properties not serviced by public water and sewer, whereas our lot size will be 0.712 acres. Please recall our property is not going to be serviced by public water, hence the need for this third variance. We will be submitting to the board via the Zoom meeting the testimony of Mr. Ford in furtherance of the application. Upon conclusion of our application tonight, we believe we will have met the requirements, namely that approval of the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the Hillsborough Borough's zoning plan and zoning ordinances. Our first witness is Michael K. Ford, professional engineer of Van Cleef Engineering Associates. Mr. Ford will be providing testimony that our client will suffer a hardship if they are not granted the variance. This hardship results because of the unique physical and topographic features of the subject property. More specifically, our property has narrowness, shallowness, irregular shape, exceptional topographic conditions, and/or other unique conditions or physical affect the property. We'll provide further testimony that the subject property fits the classic necessity for C variance because we cannot meet the setback requirements to build a modest structure based on the subject lot's physical features. No matter where we place the structure, it will be closer to the property boundary line than permitted by the municipal ordinance. In addition, and with respect to the negative criteria, we will show first that the variance can be granted without causing a substantial detriment to the public good, and that the grant of a variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the municipal zoning plan and ordinance. If it pleases the board, I would like to introduce and qualify Mr. Ford as the witness.
Ford?
Mr. Ford, do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Ford has been accepted by this board before, as long as he still has his license from the last 2 weeks, right?
Yes, licensed engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey, familiar with the site, prepared the plans that are the subject of this evening's application.
Mr. Bagnara, is Mr. Ford being asked to be qualified both as an engineer and a planner? I do know that he has those qualifications, but Is he being offered for both or only one?
Yes.
Yes, both.
Okay. Perhaps I can share a screen and then present the application.
You should have the ability, right, Mr. Ford?
Yes, sir. All right. What everybody should see on the screen now is the variance application plan, or the variance plan, last revised November 18th, 2020. It's the same plan that's posted on the website, Civic Clerk. So I don't know if there's a need to mark it as A1 since it's already on the record.
No, no need.
Okay. All right. The application is for the construction of a 2-story single-family dwelling, which is a permitted use in the RS zone, with an attached 1-car garage. What I'll highlight on the plan is the property is basically a irregular rectangular, in essence, shaped property, but unique to this area in that it's has frontage on 3 sides, 3 of the 4 sides by roads. South Branch Road at the bottom of the page or on the south side of the property, New Center Road on the west or left side of the property, and Hodge Road at the top or north side of the property. Our 4th side is coincident with 2 other lots 26 and 27, which are occupied by existing single-family dwellings. This is basically in the center of Flagtown section of New Jersey, or Hillsborough Township.
Excuse me, Mike.
Yes.
John Stamler, sorry to interrupt. You said it was a 1-car garage. I believe it's a 2-car garage, right?
Now it's just a single garage. I can look back at, well, I'll present the architectural plans in a minute.
It's 25 feet wide, so that's a 2-car, maybe 1 door.
Right. Yeah, we just have a narrow driveway. While we're talking about the garage, the orientation of the subject house is fronting Hodge Road with the access from Hodge Road. You know, certainly all the board members familiar with this area of Hillsborough know that New Center Road and South Branch Road, which are both county roads, are busier roads, while Hodge Road is an existing dead-end street with no other outlet. So one of the unique aspects of this property with its 3 frontages is the decision as to how to orient and face the house. And we feel that the applicant has presented the best, safest orientation of the house, facing Hodge Road with the access from Hodge Road and no access from New Center Road or South Branch Road. But that also presents a unique and particular hardship in that locating the house with 3 frontages requires that front yard setback of 75 feet from all 3 frontages. And we have complied with that requirement with the setback from Hodge Road and New Center Road. However, the one bulk variance, in addition to the existing conditions of lot area and lot width on Hodge, is a front yard setback to basically the rear of the house, which is what faces South Branch Road, where the deck, which is an uncovered deck, but because it's connected to the principal structure and house, is considered part of the principal structure and therefore required to meet the front yard setback, is at 65.8 feet from New Center Road to the deck. And what I'd like to note for the board is that the setback to the proposed setback to the actual physical walls of the dwelling are at 53.5 feet in this location where the 75 feet is required. So there's that de minimis or minor exception with regards to front yard setback on South Branch Road. we feel that the application, the way the house is oriented and the architecture of the dwelling blends nicely into the surrounding area. That is the front facing Hodge, as well as the portion of the dwelling which faces New Center Road, has a wraparound porch. And that's consistent with the surrounding neighborhood in that you may, as you enter Flagtown at this sharp turn on South Branch, notice that our nearest neighbor, the existing dwelling on lot 26, has a front porch. So that architectural presentation is consistent with the neighbor. And you'll see also at this point, I'd like to highlight that the size of the dwelling is, I'll say, generally consistent with the surrounding neighbors, is that you can see that the footprint of the existing dwelling on lot 26 is similar in size to the proposed dwelling. So we're not proposing an aggressively large dwelling, not only for the restrictions of this lot, but also coincident with the other structures in the neighborhood. And what I'd also like to point out at this point is that the existing dwelling on lot 26, our nearest neighbor, is set back about 25 feet from South Branch Road, which is basically that same frontage and that setback where we have that minor deviation from the required setback of 75 feet. We're in receipt of the outside agency approvals. The attorney referenced in the introduction from both the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission, as well as the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District. And that we also did receive a December 31st letter, date 2020, from Somerset County Planning Board, acknowledging that this application is not actually require planning board approval, and that they note that any disturbances within the county roads, and we do have one disturbance for a utility connection to the existing public sewer, would require road opening permits, and that would certainly be something the applicant would have to secure prior to commencing with construction. We have received 2 memorandums from the board's professionals, namely a January 26th review from Mr. Gorman, the Township Zoning Officer and Assistant Planner, and then a January 29th, 2021 review memorandum from the board's engineer, Mr. Euro of T&M Associates. I want to like to state at this juncture, having just acknowledged the engineer's review, is that the applicant would be willing to, as a condition of any approval, satisfy all of Mr. Euro's requests for information or details to his satisfaction, including the planting of trees. As noted in Mr. Gorman's memorandum, and then we also discussed this at the introduction of the application, there are C bulk variances required as part of this application. I'll note that the principal structure, the dwelling, is a permitted use in the RS zone. With regards to the bulk variances, we believe that, and that will demonstrate that the site is uniquely and particularly suited for the proposed single-family dwelling because of the following. 1, the existing lot, which has existed for nearly 70 years or more, has road frontage on 3 sides. This is unique, and that the lot configuration presents those particular and unique hardships in that the lot area and lot width are existing nonconformities, and as I've already stated, our only other property line, which is coincidental with other lands, those lands are occupied by existing single-family dwellings. So there's really no remedy or opportunity to remedy those nonconformities with regards to lot area or lot width. The lot size is 0.71 acres, and the lot frontage along Hodge Road is 149.55 feet, where, as noted for a lot in the RS zone that doesn't have both public sewer and public water service is required to have a minimum lot size of 2 acres and a lot width of 150 feet. We do have public sewer service. However, there is no public water available at the site. I'll note that the 2 lots that are coincidental with us, that is lots 26 and 27, just to the east of the site, which are occupied by single-family dwellings, are both approximately 1 acre in size. The lot frontage on 3 of the 4 sides and the developed lands on that 4th side make it, don't give us an opportunity to rectify the lot size or lot frontage nonconformity. With regards to the structure itself, it's generally consistent with the scale and size of the existing homes in the area. And but for that minor encroachment on the front yard setback along South Branch Road, we have provided for the proposed single-family dwelling while meeting all of the other bulk standards. That is impervious coverage, side yard setback, dwelling height. All of those other bulk standards are complied with regards to this application. And
Mike,
then,
I have a couple quick questions. First one, are there any wetlands on this lot?
we have reviewed the NJDEP GeoWeb and have not, that there's no wetlands identified at the site. There hasn't been a formal freshwater wetland LOI. You'll see, and actually I should have mentioned this at the introduction. The site is currently vacant. There's a stand of bamboo right next to the existing single-family house on lot 26.
Good luck getting rid of that.
There's also about half an acre of wooded area. It's in poor condition. This is from aerial views. And then there also is a gravel area on the westerly boundary coincident with New Center Road. That gravel area would be removed as part of this application and returned to a vegetated state. And then with regards to impacts to trees and wooded area, there is the total aerial view of about half an acre or 0.51 acres of woods on the site, albeit in poor condition, and actually because—
All right, Mike, let me interrupt.
sorry.
Are
No,
those
I'm sorry.
trees that are, I'm sorry, the trees that are in that wooded area, are they trees that like wet roots? Or, I mean, in your professional opinion, are there wetlands on this lot?
No, no.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Sorry.
Okay, my other question is, does the county require any right-of-way easements on South Branch Road?
There was no formal request in their December letter asking for a dedication. And if there were a dedication, our experience with the county is that it doesn't necessarily have to be in fee. It can be in roadway easements. So the owners would still, in effect, own the land.
Well, okay, but would you agree as part of the motion that any easement would be, given to the county if they request it?
Yes.
Okay, now my other question is, this is vacant land. On the chart, with your zoning requirements and so on, if I'm reading it correctly, under existing conditions, it seems to say that existing is an 8.3% impervious coverage.
Right. That's that gravel area. As with many vacant properties, it becomes, I'll say, in essence, an attractive nuisance where there's encroachments over time by, gravel area being established here, people park here. There's also debris on the property. Those existing conditions will be cleaned up as part of the application. And that's why the impervious coverage is 8% in the existing condition.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about, is there any need, has there been other types of dumping on this site, like chemicals or oil or something of that sort?
No, it's not that I'm aware of.
Well, I mean, do we have to request some kind of a, environmental impact, investigation?
No, when I refer to debris, I'm saying more like, garbage because of a property where there's not an occupant there to maintain and clean it up, debris
But
that
that
blows
could
onto
be-
the site.
But that could be somebody dumping oil or other chemicals as well.
And I have
Right.
no knowledge of that. I'm really just speaking from my own
Yeah, what you can see.
direct, knowledge of actually walking the site and reviewing it.
Ms. Haynes, you're, I assume, speaking of what's typically called a phase 1 environmental study.
Correct, yeah. Because I didn't realize that the gravel constituted, already 8%. The other thing I would note is that the request for the house and the impervious is 9.9. Now, this is a house, the applicant is not going to live there. Is that correct, Mike?
I don't know if the applicant's going to live there or not.
Well, the applicant is the LLC,
Right.
it
I mean,
sounds like-
I doubt, but I don't have direct knowledge of that.
Well, okay, so it sounds like it might be a spec house, which means somebody might buy this house thinking, oh, we'll put in, a bigger patio or this or that, and they're already at maximum impervious.
Yeah, that was a concern I had too, that you're already up to the limit, and if they want to even put in a shed or a doghouse, then they may have to come back, and like if they wanted to put a pool in, like the last applicant, where would they put the pool?
Well,
Yeah.
beyond the impervious coverage, the 3 road frontages present an obstacle for a pool. The pool wouldn't be, an above ground pool wouldn't be considered impervious coverage, but the 3 road frontages would preclude the accessory structure in the front yard.
Mike, we have had many requests for increase in impervious, and my concern is this house as built would already be at maximum. I just personally hesitate to approve something this big. Now, this is a pretty big house, right? 3,600 square feet, 2-story.
You're taking the footprint and timing it by 2. That's the garage is only 1 floor. The 2-story portion is only this portion right here. And
Okay.
I look at the footprint of the house on lot 26, and even the footprint of the house on the other lot nearby, and see them as comparable.
Well, what's the square footage of the house then? Take away the garage space.
You're talking about the footprint. You want to know. what the-
Right, about 2,200 square feet is the livable.
Now, Mike.
That's
one
And it
thing-
is a 4-bedroom dwelling. 3 of those bedrooms are on the 2nd floor. 1 of the bedrooms is on the 1st floor, which would,
Right, I mean, Chicky, it looks big, but it's the footprint, right, we're talking about. But
okay.
Mike,
Well, okay.
one thing, like it's, go ahead, Chicky, go ahead.
No, I was just,
Let me know when you're done.
oh, I'm done. No, I'm just questioning now back to the garage that John had asked about
Well, I'm
earlier.
gonna ask that now.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Mike, the garage, it's 25 feet wide. That's a 2-car garage, right? Now, I'm just trying to improve the impervious surface here because, as we mentioned, we're concerned about somebody buying and moving in. They're gonna have to come before the board to put even a sidewalk in. So I'm looking at that driveway. It's 25 feet, that garage, and it's listed as 1,000 square feet on the sheet, and I beg to differ because that driveway is 75 feet long and it's as wide as the garage, which is 25 feet. To me,
Mr.
that
Stamler, Bob Euro,
Hey, Bob.
the actual width of the garage is 14. It's 25 feet deep.
Oh,
right. Let me move in and,
I can't save you. I'm impervious then, sorry.
yeah, this is only the driveways, and the width of the garage is 14. The 25 is is the depth. So it is a one-car garage.
Okay,
And perhaps, I'll say jump into the concern. One possibility would be, and you just mentioned it, the 75-foot long driveway.
right.
If we were to, I'll say, slide the house slightly closer to Hodge Road, maybe more, it is about the same as our neighbor now, but that would eliminate the front yard setback on South Branch, but we don't need such a long driveway, and that would reduce the impervious coverage.
Give us
Yeah, I
some
was-
numbers, Mike.
I was hoping to save you on that. wide.
About the size of a shed or
A big dog house.
a big dog house. If it's a 15-foot wide driveway, so every 10 feet gives us another approximately 15-foot wide driveway. Every 10 feet gives us another 150 square feet. If we went to 65 feet or 60 feet.
Do we have to renotice if you did that or?
I don't think so. This is one of those unique situations where there is discussion with the board about rearranging things. This is one of the few instances that I think the typical kind of catch-all language about other things that may occur during discussion with the board is probably effective. There are variances already, and if the board wants to suggest a rearrangement, I think the notice is still sufficient.
Right. Now I'm just looking through the paperwork as you were talking, and according to the coverage sheet, it says it's 1,832 square feet, the footprint of the house, and that includes the garage. Is that correct, Mike?
Right.
Okay, and in the narrative, it says the actual square footage of the housing is 1,800 feet inside the housing, a little area.
Yeah, that's per the architect's plan.
Okay, and that's not a big house. I mean, it's not a little house, but it's not a big house either. Right, so is the
No.
I think the footprint is fine. It's not overly large.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not factoring in the garage being just one story.
I mean, if we're looking to improve the impervious coverage, the only solution would be to, move it toward Hodge. But I don't see where else we're gonna save any.
Okay, now I just have one question for Mike, if they do that. So is there if this owner of this house has company, and since they can't park on New Center or, the other South Branch, the only place they can park is on Hodge, right? If they couldn't park on the driveway?
Right.
Hodge is a dead end, Frank.
Hodge
Right?
is a dead end and it's a narrow road. It's not, I don't know that it's prohibited parking there, but it's not a wide road.
Okay, my point is if we move the house we've reduced the driveway area, that reduces the number of cars that can have as visitors. So,
Right.
Frank, there's always
eliminate,
grass.
it doesn't eliminate them all. I mean, if you want to volunteer your house, you could valet the cars when they come.
But, and again, if they have a big crowd, they can park on the grass for a couple hours the way everybody else does.
I just bring it up. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, if we want to save some impervious, we move it forward a little bit, and that's a compromise, and I don't think there's any other compromise here.
And again, if they went for an in-the-ground pool, where would they put it, Mike?
Well, I don't think that that's just an impervious, like you wouldn't be able to put it in any of the front yard areas facing any of the frontage.
Because we've had a few cases in the past few years where a front yard was really a side yard, and with proper, screening, we let them go to one of those yards.
Right.
Well, again, it's not the pool that's the problem. It's what they want to put around it.
Right. And why are we even talking about a pool?
Because I don't want to prove something that we have a new owner in here next year asking for 3 variances because the stupid zoning board approved something.
I agree, Frank.
Not every house in Hillsborough has a pool.
Yeah, but this one might. Yeah, I'm just thinking ahead, you know.
Well,
We
I guess to answer your question, Mr. Chair, I didn't plan for a poll on this one, but thinking out loud of perhaps here's an opportunity now that I'm highlighting. Can you see my hand?
Yes.
The side yard. So that would be the side yard, which I think would be a permitted area for a pool. And we comply with the 30-foot side yard setback. And because of the configuration of the house, there's actually about 40 feet here. So perhaps a pool could be located there. And if we move the house 15 feet closer to Hodge Road, that even opens up this area even perhaps, greater. And it wouldn't require the setback, the side yard or the setback variance to install the pool, and would allow for opportunities in that area for not only a pool, but a shed or other areas that you're thinking of that would add impervious coverage, but wouldn't trigger a revisit to this board.
That sounds good.
That sounds good.
And Mike, would the applicant agree to a phase 1?
I'd say Mr. The attorney.
Ms. Haynes, if I can interrupt for a second. Mike, as part of your site investigation, was it ever found if there's any monitoring wells, that there's no contamination to possible potable water, or any known dumping or LSRP on the property, or any concerns with the neighboring gas station next to New Center Road?
I have no knowledge of any of those environmental concerns, and the survey done by our office, I don't think identified any wells on this site. So I don't have any knowledge of any of those elements, Mr. Gorman.
Was the groundwater tested prior to making of this application?
There's no existing well on the site now, so there would have to be an application for a well by a licensed well driller prior to the building permit.
Mike,
Part of the
again,
building permit application.
an answer to my question, is the applicant willing to do a phase 1 if
Right.
that's one of the conditions of approval?
Yeah, and I would defer to the applicant's attorney, Mr. Bagnara.
I will, I'm actually in touch with the applicant. If you give me a moment, I can find out what he says about that, but I don't see it being an issue if it's required.
Yes, okay.
It's fair, Shiki.
Pardon?
It's a fair question to ask.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Bob Euro, if I could ask a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Mike, just so Mr. Ford, just so we get on the record, the plan before us is just entitled a variance plan. You have not provided any kind of grading or drainage or stormwater as part of this application.
And I think it's on the township website, we did file the soil erosion and sediment control plan. That was copied to the township, and there is proposed grading shown on that. And then with regards to drainage and runoff, we'd agree, as suggested in your memorandum, to direct runoff not to our adjoining neighbors, but to the roads. That would include the roof runoff.
Okay, so all I would ask, just for the board's consideration, I don't technically have a problem with what is submitted. I would just ask that at the time that this applicant prepares the plot plan for submission to the building department, that the necessary grading be included on that plan, and that a swale or drainage feature be incorporated on the westerly property line, or the easterly property line. I stand corrected, with common with lot 27, as it looks like the existing topography, everything drains onto those existing properties, And this way, any drainage from this new construction will be directed towards Hodge Road as well as South Branch.
And that was not in the report, right, Glenn? That's an
It was not in the report. We did not have, we asked for testimony on the drainage characteristics, et cetera. And as we're going through the testimony, it occurred to me that this will probably be done at the plot plan stage, unless the board wants to see it now. It's up to the board if they have concerns with the grading and the potential runoff to the adjoining
I don't.
properties.
Nope, I don't have to see it.
No, as long as it's done to our engineer's satisfaction.
Okay.
That's correct. That's the statement.
Hey, Bob, I wish to actually piggyback on one of your comments about the shade trees. I think the applicant should be providing site triangles at the intersections of New Center and Hodge and South Branch and New Center to ensure that the trees are not going to be planted within a site triangle,
I would agree with that, Mr. Gorman.
That's fine.
More questions?
Susan?
So with everything said, we're waiting for a decision for the applicant to agree to a phase 1 environmental study. And then we want to move the house that will decrease the driveway length. And by moving the house, Mike, you mentioned that would eliminate one of the C variances we need?
Well, it actually just trades it from a front yard setback deviation from South Branch Road, and now we would require front yard setback variance from Hodge.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if we move it to like 60 feet from Hodge, as opposed to being 65.8 feet from New Center, or I'm sorry, South Branch.
Okay.
And that would still leave the driveway at 60 feet long in front of the garage, which would be adequate for like one car in the garage and potentially up to 3 cars in the driveway.
Right.
If that's something the board would
Right.
Okay. Feel comfortable with.
Okay, and real quickly, what, you said move it 15 feet, so that 15 by what, how wide was it?
We're about 10 to 12, we're about 12 feet wide on the driveway because the garage is only 14 feet wide.
Okay.
That would reduce the impervious coverage by about 1,500 square feet.
Because we would, right, the driveway would then be 60 feet long instead of 75, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
Okay.
yeah, so that is a pretty good, chunk of the impervious coverage. That gives the, future owners, if we're right at that 10% today, that gives the future owners that added leniency of about 1,500 square feet for a pool.
Excuse me, is it 150?
Yeah.
10 times 15?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yes, 150. Yes. Excuse me.
That's
If
not
I can-
cool.
Thank you.
If I can
Right.
follow up on that, Mr. Ford, it appears to me that the house could also be moved at least somewhat toward New Center without creating a further variance on New Center. Is that correct?
Actually, no, because the footprint of the house is highlighted in shading here, Mr. Anderson, but the wraparound porch is on that side of New Center as well. So, and I think the applicant would like to maintain the wraparound porch because that adds, attractive street view of the house from both New Center and Hodge. So that.
Well, the requirement on setback from New Center is 75 feet, correct?
Right, and that's where we're at now to that attached wraparound porch.
Okay, I did not see that. I was looking at another memo. Apparently there was information given that it was more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So there's 75 to the pool.
They'll have a perfect view of the gas station, right, and the post office?
Mr. Chairman, Bob Euro, one more time. Mr. Ford, just for the record, I think you misspoke a little earlier. Can you just confirm what the per the plan that's been submitted, what the variance, what the setback is off of South Branch Road to the corner of the dwelling?
The corner of the dwelling right here, I highlight on the
Yes.
plan,
Yes.
is 73.5.
Okay, I believe you had mentioned that it was 53.5 in your testimony. I just
Oh,
wanted to
yeah,
get
no, it's
clarification.
73.5, so it's only slightly over, but we are technically required to have this setback to the deck, because the deck is attached to the dwelling, and that's at 65.8 feet. So that's the relief we asked for.
Thank you. I just wanted to
Yes.
clarify for the record.
Yeah, and then just to clean up all the other items while we're waiting for the answer to the phase 1 request is, as I indicated earlier when I was describing the project, we have about a half acre of woods today. Those woods, the non-wooded area is basically at, along New Center Road in that existing gravel area. That'll be revegetated, but we have no alternative in order to build within the acceptable building envelope, but to disturb the wooded area. We're disturbing about 0.29 acres of that 0.51 acres of woods, which, if you do the math, is about 57% of the wooded area on site, and technically requires relief because you have a ceiling in your ordinance of 20% of existing woods. But like I said earlier, if you go to the site, you'll see that the woods are, I'll say, not in pristine, there's a lot of vines growing up, trees, dead and diseased trees.
It's pretty ragged. Yeah, it's pretty ragged.
Yeah.
But are you proposing not to replace any of the trees, Mike?
Now we're proposing to do the tree planting in accordance with Mr. Euro's recommendations.
Oh, okay, all right.
Right,
And-
and I was getting to my last bullet for any type of move on this application, that we would just say that they would agree to our engineer's recommendations that include everything we discussed, the trees, the grading, for the drainage and so forth. So,
John, plus, if requested by the county, the allowing of the right-of-way on South Branch Road,
Correct.
along with the phase 1.
Just to be clear, that the street trees and street mitigation are two separate things, or two separate requirements, not simultaneous. But I've been to this site before. There are some very scrubby trees, some questionable bushes and shrubs that have been overgrown at the same time. It's hard to make that distinction. If you want to go out there and tag every tree, feel free to do so, but it'll be a cleanup for this property.
Yeah, we agree that this proposal is consistent with the permitted principal uses in the zone, and but for the nonconformities of the existing conditions and the minor front yard setback, will be an enhancement to the community, not a detriment. Will help with the visual environment of the surrounding area, and help to provide for a suitable use of this currently vacant property.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Just to update, I have spoken to the applicant, and they are willing to do the phase 1 if required.
oh, great, fantastic.
Okay, any more questions for this witness, for Mike, from the board members? Are all open at the public? Okay, hearing none, I'm opening. Fred, would you open the public line for any questions from the public for this witness?
Mr. Chairman, I just got a message from Fred that he's temporarily offline at the moment. My recommendation is to take a recess until we can get reestablished for Fred,
Okay.
so that we make sure that we have proper recording of what's transpired over the past few minutes.
Okay, and my phone just went off with a telephone number. That might be Fred. So, okay, let's take a 10-minute break. And
My apologies.
okay, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 8:15.
I envy everyone that can walk to the refrigerator right now. I'm sitting in an office.
A refrigerator in an office?
No, I said I envy you guys that might be able to walk to the refrigerator right now.
Not
That'd be
because
nice.
once my dogs see me, they'll want to go for a walk. And I have no steps in the back because the mason knocked them down and I have to physically walk my dogs and I do not want to do that.
I just want to reiterate to the board and members, I am still showing a live feed on here. I am not sure where we're up or not.
Sure.
Yeah, it is. And I did see a little icon come on before that says Hillsborough is now the host. So I was wondering why that happened, but I thought that Fred had Jim, I believe, on to show him how to do it for the next meeting, but he seems to be gone too.
Okay, well, everybody just mute yourself visually and go away for 10 minutes and come back at 8:15 and hopefully we'll get it back to.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been on, but it basically would need Fred to bump me up to the next level. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a crazy dog at home, so I didn't want you guys hearing and watching crazy things with a crazy dog.
Yep. My crazy dog should meet your crazy dog.
Mine's a handful.
I'm talking to Fred right now. So.
Tina, just for a record, we paused at 8:05.
I'll write it right now.
Thanks.
Pat, you got me? Patrick? Are you there still?
I hear you loud and clear.
All right, yeah, I don't know what happened. I think maybe we just died. I don't know if Comcast went out or whatnot, so I don't know how much I missed a few seconds there, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We paused at 8:05.
Okay, super, thanks. It looks like we're back up though.
The board elected to take a 10-minute recess to make sure we have enough time to do what we need to do.
Yeah, again, I'm not certain what happened. It froze.
Sure.
And then you know, I couldn't get right back on, but because I don't know if it was my cable. I jumped on an Xfinity hotspot right away, so I'm going to stick with that for a little bit. We'll
Fred, I think that's what happened. That's what happened to me Monday.
Yeah. I mean, everything was fine here, and you know, I just yelled to my son, and then you know, my phone was even dead, which goes through Comcast too. So I'm assuming that's what happened.
I threw you off. I thought it would be fun to throw you off. That's what happened.
Yeah, well, maybe we can blame it on Hori.
We'll do what we usually do. When we come back in, we'll take a roll call, see who's here, everyone that's here, and then I guess we can just look back on the video and see what happened and see where we left off at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would leave that up to Tina. The last thing she heard, you know, and then we can go from there. And I'm not recording right now. I stopped it, you know, when it stopped, and then you know, I'll just start when we come back. Because it won't. Let me see. Oh, it's still converting, so I can't look at where it stopped on the video until it's done converting. But again, as long as Tina has what she has, then I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I got everything.
Yeah, okay, great. I figured you guys did. But, you know,
I got it, and I got backup too. So you need audio, I got audio. You need a transcript, I got a transcript. I got everything. I'm Italian. We cover all our bases. Remember that. Remember that.
We're gonna need a transcript by midnight.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's technology. It can't always work perfectly.
Are we recording now or not?
No, not yet.
We're still in recess. We have another 5 minutes or so.
As far as I know, there's no legal requirement that we have to record onto YouTube. It's just that we have to have a Zoom meeting that everybody can get in on, so.
Yeah, I mean, we do the YouTube just to make it open. That's what the committee was doing before they did Facebook. So no, I'm not worried about YouTube, and I was recording until I got kicked off, and I know Tina records, so we'll have the records of it. So I'm not worried about that.
So tomorrow, if I go up on YouTube, are we gonna have 2 meetings for tonight, part 1 and part 2?
Yeah, I probably because it's easier than having to merge them.
Okay.
No, you have to merge them. Unacceptable.
So there you got it. I'll merge them for our planner.
Yeah, just kidding. But Frank, to your question, I mean, I defer to Mark on his expertise, but if the whole purpose of this is to have a clear and concise record.
Well, we got Tina for that. So
Yes.
Yes, well, the municipal land use law does say recorded. It is not specific as to what that means. Certainly, as far as I'm concerned, the gold standard for recording, certainly the gold standard in the courts is certified court reporter.
all right, Tina.
I mean, 10 years from now, we could be looking for this and YouTube may go out of business or change their.
Well, again, YouTube is just a live stream that we do just for niceties. We have the Zoom meeting. I record the Zoom meeting, and we have that stored at the township too under our video, under video.
Recording? That's a separate recording?
That's different than what's up at YouTube. I mean, it's the same, but it's different.
So is that Zoom meeting? Is that Zoom recording going on now, or is that?
No, when the meeting froze, it stopped my Zoom and, it started converting that Zoom recording. And so now that when we start back up, before we take roll call, I'll start the Zoom recording again.
Okay. So basically we'll have 2 recordings tonight.
Yeah. And again, I can merge them into one and put them up on YouTube, or again, we haven't had to use them, but like you said, I'll have a part 1 and a part 2. That's all. And sometimes I do that if the committee's taking a long break or something. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 2 minutes and we'll start up again.
I really was hungry, so I just shut it down because I had to go get something.
It comes out.
Now the truth comes out.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. It's usually the court reporter asking for a little break, and I fully understand. I guess I should have asked.
When I need it, I ask. When I don't need it, I don't ask.
It really hurts to pay the Comcast bill when things like that happen. Well, we've been pretty lucky, I think. We've been pretty fortunate with all these meetings. I mean, I've been doing at least 2 or 3 a week. So
It is so much better than when we started out with those telephone conferences.
Yeah, in the beginning, everything was bad. People with internet problems. Eventually, I think everybody got the hang of it.
Everybody
so.
caught up. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, we're doing a teleconference. We managed to be successful at it. So here's to us.
That was really hard for me. It
Very
was so
hard for the court. Hard for the court reporter. Correct.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, did I get the wrong person speaking? I don't like that feeling of something in my transcript is incorrect.
I think your transcripts were 100% accurate.
Mm-hmm. There's no such thing.
Let me see somebody refute that. How could they tell who it was? It was on.
I mean, if it's a stupid question, they'll say, "I wouldn't ask a stupid question. That's John Stambler."
Nice.
Hey, Tina,
Yeah.
are we talking to Tina right now or one of your other personalities?
I didn't take my drugs today, so who knows? Who knows?
I mean, I like this Tina or whatever person showed up today.
And other than the fact she's insulting you.
Yeah, but see, he looks at it a different way. It's not an insult when it comes from me. Okay?
Right, it's a compliment.
Yeah. Tina's
All right,
thinking about
I got 8:15.
8:15.
Chairman, I'm going to start recording again. Sorry for the IT issues, folks. And want to take roll call.
I'll take.
Everybody back. Can you see?
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Stamler.
Here.
Miss Lilly. Oh, boy. We'll go back to her. Mr. Valchek. Okay, good. Mr. Valchek, you're here?
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Here.
Ms. Comfer,
Here.
Ms. Haynes,
Here.
Chairman Herbert,
Here.
Mr. Gorman,
Present.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Euro,
Here.
Freddie here,
Yes, I'm here.
and I'm still here.
All right,
Okay,
thank
we're
you.
good. We got everybody.
Okay, so before we had the technical problems, I think I was just ready to open for public comment. So Fred,
Okay. Yeah, I do see somebody on the line. So again, I'll unmute your, please state your name and address for the record and spell your last name, please. So MG, are you there?
MG is muted.
Yeah, he's got to unmute himself. He's allowed to unmute himself or herself. There you go.
Hi,
Could you please state your name and address for the record, spelling your last name, please?
yes, Maurice Geller, Geller.
And your address?
It's 103 Hodge. I'm right next door. I'm butting up to the property. And
Okay,
my
thank you.
neighbor's- Yeah, my neighbor's the one that's building the house.
Sure. So you have a question for for Mike Ford, the witness at this?
Yeah, I just was wondering about the, well, I had a question on the variances and I know now what that means and what that's all about. The well water, is that going to impact my well at all?
Mike?
Yeah, the applicant would be required to file through a licensed well driller, the ability to drill a well, and would have to comply with all the regulations per the health department.
Okay, so that won't affect like my well, the capacity of me getting water, it won't diminish my water at all.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any issues in this part of town with regards to yield of water.
Yeah, that's what my question is.
Right.
Mike, wouldn't one of the tests be that they actually have to see the capacity of the well as part of it?
Well, any new well does have to have a yield or capacity test. But the only portion of the town that requires, I'll say, an interference test where you actually like look at neighboring wells and because you would have to open a neighboring well is up on the mountain. And that's only for wells that are within a certain distance of each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other thing is I have like, I know the property was staked out, but the stakes came out. And even though my edge of that area has some bushes and things, it does go in at least 10 feet beyond, but that stake has been removed. I don't want anybody crossing into that space.
Yeah, part of the construction would be filing for a building permit. That would have to be reviewed and approved by the engineering department as well as the construction department. And during construction, there would have to be a silt fence placed at the limit of disturbance.
Okay.
So there would be like a physical barrier that would demarcate, where this property is and where the limits of disturbance are.
Okay, because it's kind of like you said, it is a wooded area to some degree, and it is some degree. And my area, part of it is wooded. That border does have woods on it or bushes. And I'm not in, I just want it to stay the way it is. And I don't want anybody thinking that that's part of that other land.
Understood.
Yeah, yeah. And also debris coming off of all that work. I'm concerned about that because I know debris tends to come towards me, and like we get things in our pool from debris from, construction, roof retiling and all that stuff. And I really would like not to have that. I keep picking up garbage off of my land from, things of that nature.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I know it's a small concern, but because I have a pool and it does become annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my only couple concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in public have a question for Mr. Ford?
I see no others, Chairman.
Okay. So, okay, any more questions from the board members or statement?
Can I just interject one, thing? We talked about moving the house closer to Hodge. And we identified now that we don't have a front yard setback nonconformity to new center. But I'd like to point out that the irregular shape of the lot, it actually gets a little narrower as you go toward Hodge. So when we move the house closer to Hodge and maintain that 30-foot side yard setback to Mrs. Geller's property, there may be a slight encroachment on the front yard setback along New Center. Right now, we're at 75 feet. It may be, I'll say inches. I could defer to Mr. Euro with his thoughts on it, but I just want to, from a factual standpoint, by sliding the house closer to Hodge, it may actually create that other nonconformity. That's for that side, that's for that porch that faces Hodge that we discussed earlier.
We have a survey with meets and bounds to see whether those two property lines are parallel or not.
It actually is. We do have a survey that was submitted as part of the application, and the variance plan identifies the bearings of those two those two property lines, Mr. Anderson, and I looked at them during our break, and they are just slightly different in bearing. One is about 27 degrees and the other one's about 25 or 26. They're slightly off. If they were parallel, I wouldn't be making this point.
All right, so it narrows slightly toward Hodge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, nothing that I have seems to have those bearings on it, but I'm sure you can read it better than I anyway. All right, the board needs to be aware of that because this is, as Mr. Ford says, assuming that the 30 feet is maintained, that is going to create a setback variance off Hodge Road. Although it may well be inches, it'll still create a setback variance. The alternative is to move it so that the setback from setback from New Center remains the same, but that would slightly, again, perhaps only by inches, reduce the 30 feet.
Correct.
So what do we need to do? Put a optional variance in there in case it happens?
Right.
Well, you can't have an optional variance. So,
well, who said so?
Well, unfortunately, the law says that, but I'm just the bad guy that gets to tell you what the law says.
I mean,
Mark, how would I possibly, if I move to approve this application with the following conditions, how the heck do I word that?
Well, let me put it this way. If Mr. Ford is satisfied that it will not create more than a 1 foot discrepancy, then you simply approve it as 1 foot closer to New Center. And from what Mr. Ford said, I certainly don't want to play engineer here, but it sounds to me like the discrepancy between the discrepancy from parallel is very small.
Right.
I see Mr. Ford looking around, see it because I put him on the spot.
No, I'm looking for a scale, and you're right. It's right now we're at the.
Do we say within 2 feet?
Well, I don't think you can say within. I think you can simply give them a variance to go to. I have to get out the other plan here. Go to 74 feet from New Center Road. They don't have to take the whole thing. But if you allowed them to go 74 feet, and again, as long as Mr. Ford is comfortable that gives them the wiggle room, then I think it covers the issue.
Yes.
If the difference in bearing is 2%, then that it's 3.5% of whatever you move the house by. So if you're moving it by 10 feet up that angle, it changes by 3.5% of 10 feet. If that makes sense. So it's inches. It's a very small number.
Right.
it's probably about 1.5 inches, right? 10 feet is 120 inches. 3% of that is, well,
Yeah, well,
Come on, Jim.
it's 4 inches. All right.
10%.
It's about 4 inches. Yeah.
And that's why I think this 74-foot setback to new center roads that's been suggested as part of the relief that would be potentially granted here would provide for that tolerance.
Okay.
So, are we ready for a motion or?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, technically you haven't opened to public comment. I don't know if.
Yeah, I think, okay, yeah, let me open it to public comment, Fred.
Sure. Anybody from the public have a comment on this application at this time? Please raise your hand. I see none, Chairman.
Okay, so go ahead, John.
A motion to approve this application. And as always, Mark and you, Chicky, just make sure if I miss anything, I'm sure you'll let me know. A motion to approve this application with the following conditions that, Chicky, you mentioned that the county right of way on South Branch Road, if needed, the applicant will confide in that. The applicant agreed to a phase 1 environmental study. We're moving the house that decreases the driveway length closer to Hodge. And
By
the
15
applicant
feet?
will agree. The applicant will agree to any of our engineers' recommendations that include the grading, swale or drainage toward the easterly property line and so forth. And also now with the setback of 74 feet to New Center Road. And did I miss anything?
Mr. Gorman raised the question about site triangles.
Okay, and the applicant will not plant any trees within the site triangle limitations. Is that good?
My recollection, Mr. Gorman may know this better than I, my recollection is the township ordinance does have a diagram for site triangles. So I think it would be sufficient to have a condition that they would comply with the typical required site triangles at the two corners.
Actually, I defer this to the engineers. Does the county have a different restriction with their site triangles?
They may, so I would make the resolution state that follow the appropriate site triangle per the township ordinance and the county requirements or the county requirements.
And I'll make that a part of my motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Stammer, I think there was also a question regarding a phase 1.
I mentioned
that.
He
Okay,
did
I'm
mention that. Although I would suggest that the condition be not just that a phase 1 be performed, because you could perform a phase 1 and then say, well, I'm going to build on top of this dump anyway. But phase 1 that is found to be satisfactory by the engineer.
Correct, and that'll be part of the motion. That sounds good.
Here a second.
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 Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Tina?
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Miss Salili,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Miss Comfer,
Yes.
Miss Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Take care. Good night.
And so we have one more application this evening. The Wallace application filed BA 2104.
The final application this evening is Kristen and Darnell Wallace, file number BA-21-04, located at block 150.06, lot 6, otherwise known as 12 Wyckoff Way. The applicant is seeking a seabulk variance relief from the minimum side yard setback and maximum impervious coverage to construct an in-ground pool with a concrete surround on a property in the R residential zone. Time of decision, April 12, 2021. To the board, our board engineer on this application is Mr. Di Sessa from Pannoni Engineering. He'll be our new board engineer on new applications going forward. I just want to introduce him to the board.
Okay. Welcome aboard, Mr. Di Sessa.
How you doing, Drew?
Good, thank you, board members. I'm pleased to be here.
Okay.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, this application has one kind of wrinkle that I've discussed, I think, a couple of times with Mr. Gorman. The ordinance has this difficult to understand provision about reducing yards if the basic 25 feet, I think it's 25 feet, cannot be maintained. That I don't know exactly how to interpret cannot. At least as I look at this application, it would not be inconceivable. It may be very inconvenient, but it would not be inconceivable that the basic yard variance could be maintained. So assuming the board wants to approve this, I think the board needs to make a finding for these purposes that the side yard cannot be maintained, and therefore the exception in the ordinance applies.
Mr. Anderson, it's rear yard, not side yard.
Rear yard. If I said side yard,
This is for the side yard.
if I said side yard, I certainly misspoke. Mr. Gorman is correct that it is rear yard.
Yep. So yeah, so the variance tonight is for the side yard for the proposed pool. The exception possibility is for the rear yard.
Right, and the other
Thank
thing
you.
that was in your memo is something about a shed, far corner, but there was no shed there, right? Mark, the memo you sent in, did you say that there was a possible shed or something in the far corner of the yard? Or over that?
Yes, there is a, if I am looking at the variance plan, this is also reflected on the survey. In the upper left, that would be the northwest corner. There is the survey and also the variance plan show a frame shed over, the word over being the typical surveyor language to indicate that it protrudes over the property line from a neighboring property. That's part of the impervious coverage, and it does not appear to have been calculated into the impervious coverage.
We'll ask the applicant about that because I'm looking at the photos and it didn't seem to look like there's a little fence there for a garden, but okay, so let's bring the applicant.
Well, but in any event, the surveyor is telling you that it does protrude over. And as I say, there doesn't seem to be any accounting for what that impervious coverage is. Frankly, I would say that the best answer for the applicant is to make sure that it gets moved for various reasons. Having somebody else's shed on your property over an extended period of time, let's just say, may prove to be a disadvantage to the property owner. But it is up to the property owner to determine how to deal with that. But I raised the question primarily because if it is to remain, it is an unknown additional impervious coverage, and I'm not sure how the board grants a variance that includes an unknown quantity.
Okay. So good evening, Ms. Wallace. So you're representing yourself, so we'll have the court stenographer swear you in.
Both of them going to be testifying?
I think it makes sense to swear them both in, and then we don't have to go back and redo it.
Okay. Can you both raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, so good evening. So go ahead and tell us what you were trying to do, what you're proposing to do with this application.
Sure, absolutely. So what we're looking to do is to install an in-ground swimming pool in the rear side of the yard so that we can maximize the use of our property. So we are looking to apply for 2 C variances in order to construct the pool. The first C variance is for the side yard setback for the pool. And in the plans, I believe we proposed 12.5 feet where 25 feet is required. And then we're also applying for a second C variance for additional impervious land coverage to allow for some additional cement decking around the pool. And the allowable coverage is 25% and the existing is 23.9. And then the proposed is the 28.8. And so given the size of our lot and the narrowness of our lot, we feel there'd be some practical difficulties in us being able to install the pool without some of these variances. We also think that by granting this, that, we wouldn't necessarily change the spirit of the neighborhood or, infringe on our neighboring property owners' rights or use of their own land.
Right. I see you have a witness too tonight, Mr. D'Amico. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to have her go further into your application?
Yes.
But hold on, I have some questions, Frank.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Kristen, I was there earlier today to inspect the property and all. Kristen, the walkway around the pool, is it 3 feet?
It looks from the design that it's designed at 4 feet.
Oh, wait a minute. It's 4 feet.
Yep.
Now, and I think I talked to Darnell earlier and all. I'm a pool owner or previous pool owner and all, and 3 feet is more than enough for around a pool. I think you could probably improve the impervious size, decrease it if you made that 3 feet. I couldn't read it earlier today where I could see it now. It says 4 feet wide. 3 feet, especially with the size and how tight it's going to be in there, I think you'd be fine with 3 feet if you're willing to change that.
Okay. I think we, would be willing to consider it, but wanted to ensure that we had, the appropriate decking just based on the size and the area where we were putting it. But, of course, we'd be willing to have that conversation. But I know Deborah also kind of helped us with the plans, so we could get her advice as well.
And then I also mentioned with the drainage, you're not going to impede that drainage on that side of your yard on the side because it looks like there's definitely a water issue in the drainage thing, but and you're not going to impede that proper flow of drainage from that way, right?
No, that would not be the plan to do that.
Right. And I know you have that berm there and you have the privacy barrier with those arborvitaes and that they're going to stay, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Any more questions from the applicant, from board members?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Ms. Wallace, you heard, I think, my comments earlier about this shed that extends over your property line in the northwest corner. Are you aware of that?
Interestingly enough, I wasn't aware of it until we did the new survey. It's relatively new. And so when the new survey was done, I looked at it and we were both surprised because it's, like I said, it's relatively new. But to your point, given it's on our land, the intent was to have a conversation with the homeowners to request that they, move the property. I think it's a great call out that it's part of our impervious land coverage, which we didn't think about because there is a large white PVC fence in front of it. So when you're in our yard, you don't actually see it or consider it as part of the yard. So, but yes, we would be willing to go to them to have that move so that it doesn't impact the numbers.
Okay, certainly that would be desirable, at least I would think from a couple of standpoints. But it's not just a question of having a conversation. If the board approves a specific impervious coverage, which it has to do, the board can't grant a sort of amorphous variance. It has to be specific.
Okay.
And if the shed is not included in that, then ultimately you're not going to get approval of the construction until the shed is moved.
Understood.
Okay. I say that understanding this may not be the most pleasant conversation with your neighbor ever. And I suspect you've pointed out that the shed seems to kind of back up to the vinyl fence. Presumably whoever put the shed down there assumed the fence was at or near the property line, which it isn't.
Right.
But again, it does appear to me, if this application gets approved, that you are going to have to see that shed is moved.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure you understood.
Yeah.
I have a question about how far off your property line is the vinyl fence?
Based on the survey and based on the conversation, I think, Deborah, we had way in the beginning, it looks like maybe it's about 5 feet.
Ooh, wow. Okay, I can't tell from, yeah.
Just based on, and that's just based on, when you look at the actual
Yeah, it is 5
shed,
feet.
the shed looks like it's about 5 feet.
It is 5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, my mistake is I saw that little fence that you had in the corner there inside the fence, and I thought it was the thing that was in the shed. So, okay. Okay, so we ready for Miss Deborah?
It's Deborah D'Amico, right?
Yes,
Oh, hi. Can you raise your hand? Thank you. Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Just state and spell your name for the record.
Deborah D'Amico, D''Amico, D'Amico Engineering in Somerville.
And I recall you before this board just a few weeks ago, right? And we
Yes.
Ms. D'Amico, I recall from previously that you're licensed as a professional engineer. Is that the only qualification that you're asking the board to consider this evening?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
You should have the, I'm sorry. I didn't look at my own notes. The engineer has been sworn.
Right. Okay, so you can go ahead and testify.
So while you were talking with Kristen, I pulled up my CAD, the advantages of, looking remotely. The fence is just a little over 5 feet over the property line. And the square footage of the shed is about 20 square feet. That is on the Wallace property. And if you reduce the walkway to 3 feet, that reduces the impervious, and I'd have to double check everything, to 3373.
Have you reduced that to a percentage?
That's 27.7%. 27.7%. That does not include the 20 feet for the shed.
So right now, the total for the lot combined is 3507, which is 28.8%. By making that walkway 3 feet
Instead of 4.
instead of 4, it drops it to 3373, correct?
Yes.
And then what was your calculation on the shed that would save?
That was 20 square feet.
Oh, okay. So 3353, that's a good compromise, right?
No,
Mr.
the
Schindler,
3373 did not include the shed. So it's
Right.
3373.
That's why I said 3353, because you told me 20 square feet you saved with the shed, right?
Right, but the shed, the 73, it's already out.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So going to 53 would be double deducting.
Okay.
That would bring them up to what percentage then with a 3-footer? 27.1?
27.7.
That's a good compromise in my eyes. I don't have any other further questions. I went to the property today. I made some suggestions to Darnell about the fiberglass pool. Could float, so. It's tight, but it works as long as the draining on that side of the house is fine.
Okay, so I did take a look at the drainage because Drew's report had brought it up. And of course, I would give spot grades through there to make sure that it drains and does not go onto the neighbor's lot. But there's that landscape berm that would help to make sure that that doesn't go onto the neighbor's property.
Right. Yeah, Deborah. I mean, if you keep the flow, especially since the walkway now would be 3 feet,
Yep.
now you'll have that same nice even flow that you have there right now.
Yep.
Where's the proposed location of the pool equipment? I don't see that on the plan.
So I did not locate it yet. Again, this was just preliminary in nature to get the variance for the coverage. So that's not included in the pool on the plan. And they had talked about possibly reconfiguring it, making it a little bit different on the inside corner there. So I didn't finalize all the grading. It didn't make sense to charge them for work that if they didn't get the variance. So this was, a minimum amount of work to get the variance. So that's
Jim
not
was,
shown.
I'm sorry, Jim, the pool is shown on the plan.
Chicky, I meant like the filter and pump and all that stuff.
I see.
I don't
Okay.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not shown.
Yeah, they're not proposing a shed for the equipment either, right?
No.
Okay, Frank.
Any other questions from this witness? So do I take it that the applicant is agreeable to the 3-foot reduction in?
Yes, we would do if that's what's required, absolutely.
Nobody else has any questions for this either witness? I'm going to open it up to Fred. Let's open up the public questions.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, real quick, Mark made a good point in the beginning of the application. Ms. D'Amico, is there any way that you could demonstrate that the rear yard setback can be reduced to 12.5? Why does it have to be at 12.5?
Okay,
And why
so
can't it comply to 25?
right. So you have to have the pool. I believe it's 10 feet from the house already, so you can't slide it towards the house for building and meet the building code. So the only way to do that would be to shorten the pool by another 12.5 feet. And it's not, then you're talking no pool at all.
Hey, Deborah, with the decrease in the concrete walkway around, can we save 2 feet by moving, since we're shaving?
I'd have to see if, I don't remember what I have the pool from the pool to the house distance.
Oh.
I think that's set at the minimum.
Okay.
Because that's measured from the edge of the water. So you might not be able to scooch that in.
Right.
So essentially, of your testimony would be, is 10 feet from the house, not 10 feet from the deck?
Yes, I believe it's 10 feet from the house. Is the building code.
So where are you going with this, Patrick?
Well, this is the issue I raised.
Is there any ordinance, Sean?
This is the issue I raised before, and it's language in the ordinance that I don't think anybody can reasonably understand. But it says that you can reduce the rear yard only if you cannot meet the 25 foot. And whatever cannot mean, it seems to me that as long as you've got more than 25 feet, you could at least theoretically meet the 25 feet. I mean, maybe you'd have a 1 foot wide pool, which is absurd, but that's not what the ordinance says. So all I'm asking is, if the board thinks that this makes sense, the board should make a finding that pursuant to the ordinance, the 25 foot cannot be met, and therefore what is proposed is acceptable.
That's how I read it. That's how I read it.
Yep, okay. All right, Frank.
Okay, okay, Mr. DeCessi, you have any questions for either witness?
The only thing I would like to maybe have Debbie, Mr. D'Amico discuss is just the increase in impervious and how that would or wouldn't impact the current drainage that's there now, the grading, just to have that explained, since the variance is being requested.
Okay.
So the increase in impervious is, once we reduce it down to 3 feet, it's 354 square feet, which is a de minimis. Plus the surface of the pool would actually retain water, and it would flow out as it fills up. It would flow out the skimmers and kind of act as a detention pond, although you can't really calculate it. But that would give any offset for any increase in this really small. It's not like there's a patio associated with it. So in that would help with any increase in runoff you would experience from the sidewalk, from the concrete decking.
Okay, and you're maintaining the same drainage patterns
The drainage
as are there
patterns
now.
actually agree. Yep, it flows towards the southeast, towards Wyckoff Way. So we would continue that drainage pattern. There's the landscape berm between this lot and lot 5 that would be maintained, that would not be removed. So that would provide both screening and landscape and runoff protection to that lot.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. No more questions, and I'll open it to public. Fred, would you open it to public for questions?
Sure. Any people from the public have questions for these witnesses on this application?
Keep it open if they have any public comment.
If you have any public comment, Chairman says now's the time as well. Seeing neither.
Okay, we can close public.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, in my motion, do I have to include that statement you said?
Yes, I will write it as long as you simply say that that the board is making the finding that I recommended is required.
Okay. All right, I move to approve this application with the conditions that they decrease the walkway around the pool to 3 feet wide, and also to include in Mark's findings.
Whatever Mark
Okay,
said.
discussed earlier. Okay, well, I'm done.
I can repeat what I said. And this would be at 27.7% if I understood Ms. D'Amico's testimony correctly.
27.7, correct.
All right. The only other thing that I made a note of is the question of grading, whether the board might want to require a grading plan to be approved by the engineer.
I went out there to, I don't think I need to include that. I went out there today and their plans. The drainage is not going to be impacted by where they're putting this.
To back up, John, and that question, that would still need to be provided to our township's engineering department as part of putting in the pool anyway. So it's covered either way.
Well, not really. If it's the fact that it has to be provided doesn't mean that it has to be approved.
I don't think
Well, yes, it does. There's still an approval process that needs to be done, whether it be approved primarily by the board engineer first or by the engineering part second. It still has to show positive drainage to where it needs to go, so there's no impact on neighboring properties.
To include in my motion, I'm going to include that the applicant does not block or impede the existing drainage that's already on their property. How's that?
That's
work?
fine.
Does that cover it?
Yep. Mark, and to one more comment about the finding from the board that Ms. D'Amico provided testimony in that regard as to the placement would not be practical.
Yes, I certainly made a note of that.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Frank, roll call.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Jim gave a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Tina?
Mr. Stamler, Miss Lilly,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Ms. Comfer,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck with your pool.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next meeting is on March 17th. That'll be harvester. And you want to give us any more updates, Patrick, about future meetings?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we're getting a considerable amount of applications at the moment. The board and I are finalizing a timeline of sorts of how things may pan out. We're looking at a couple more things for completeness at the moment, but I'll be in touch with you and the vice chairman. We'll hopefully have some idea to give you an update where we're at with these applications for our next meeting. I believe Mr. Maskey is covering the next meeting for harvesters. But we are seeing an uptick in volume in our department where maybe additional means might need to be considered depending on how we do. But so we'll certainly give you the information. You guys can make that determination if need be. If we do have to make any additional adjustments or add meetings, the board certainly can by amending the board calendar instead of adding special meetings. Marking input on that in regards to updating the calendar with the board, what board actions will need to be done.
I guess the usual comment about additional meetings. The Open Public Meetings Act, commonly called the Sunshine Law, imposes somewhat artificial restrictions on what can be put on the agenda of a so-called special meeting. That is one that is not on your annual list. While if the annual list is amended, which you can do at any time, regardless of the description of it as being an annual notice, then you do not have these artificial limitations. So for flexibility, it would make it easier for the scheduling of applications if additional meetings were added as an amendment to the annual meeting notice, as opposed to having them scheduled individually as so-called special meetings.
Okay, so
Just,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, and just to add one more comment. So just for the board to be aware is that though our completeness review times have been increased, thanks to the legislature and the DCA of allowing more time to find and complete, our ability to hear things in our time of decision has decreased a bit. I'm not sure why they made that motion, but that it gives us a little bit of a time crunch at the same time. So if we don't get extensions, then we don't want to see things have automatic approvals because we didn't do something in time. So we'll be on top of it.
Okay, so we'll probably have more information at the March 17th meeting.
Yeah, I want to look at these things more from a completeness standpoint. So we're going to say, hey, we need to really put these on at this point and give you guys the best information possible, rather than also we have to wait for something from the applicant.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, time to adjourn. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to get out of here.
Okay, we hear a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening. See you next.
Okay. Thank you.
Aloha,
Guys,
Mark.
thanks for dealing with a little bit of IT issue tonight. Sorry about that.
Aloha to you.
Bye, everybody. Good night. See you next time.
Hang loose,
Thanks, Tina.
hang loose,
Hi,
hang loose,
Tina.
brother.
Good night, guys.
Now, you know.